Hello and welcome to PBCJ Presents, or weekly discussion series in which we examine some of the hot button issues of the day. I am Simone Absalom Gale. This week, our focus is Down's syndrome, or as we call it, Down syndrome. In December 2011, the United Nations General Assembly declared March 21 World Down Syndrome Day. The day is used to highlight issues surrounding Down syndrome and help the general public understand more about the condition and the abilities of persons living with it. The estimated incidence of Down syndrome is between 1 in 1,000 and 1 in 1,100 live births worldwide. Every year, approximately 3,000 to 5,000 children are born with this chromosome disorder. To share more information, we're joined by President of the Barbados Down Syndrome Association, Ms. Asha Aline Rennick, via Zoom, and founder and chairperson of the Jamaica Down Syndrome Foundation, Dr. Charmaine Scott. Ladies, welcome.
Thank you for having us.
All right, Dr. Scott, we start with you. Explain what is Down syndrome.
Down syndrome is a disorder that is associated with intellectual disability, certain distinctive facial and physical features, as well as varying health issues. It was first described well over 150 years ago by Dr. John Langdon Down in the UK. And approximately 100 years later, another doctor discovered that the cause of it is an extra chromosome on the 21st pair. Hence, the condition is also called trisomy 21.
All right, so Dr. Scott, what's your area of expertise, though, in medicine?
Well, I'm a pediatric cardiologist. That is, I look after children who have problems with their heart. With Down syndrome, at least 50% of children with Down syndrome will have a heart issue, and most of them will need it corrected. So in my clinic over the years, I used to see quite a few children with Down syndrome. Now, when a mom comes into the clinic, and then on the background of them having Down syndrome, telling them about the heart issue was devastating. And so in a busy clinic, it was challenging to find time to sit and, counsel and support that mom. I looked around, there was no support group for children with Down syndrome. Hence, I started this foundation.
That's very good of you. Asha, what's your experience? How did you become involved with Down syndrome?
I became involved after I had my son, Ashton. I had him at 29 at that time as well, similar to what Dr. Scott was saying. I looked around and I didn't see an active association or foundation that was there to provide that much needed support at that time. So after, when he was around 2 years old, I really started to reach out and look for parents that would have either traveled the same road or were going through the same experience at that time. And we started as a support group and supporting one another and meeting the kids. And then from there we grew over the years to become a registered charity. But we did start as a support group, looking for that, to form that community.
Okay, how did you feel when you found out that your son had that Down syndrome?
When I found out, it was a shock. It was a bit of a shock. Let me not say a bit. It was definitely a shock. I had a typical pregnancy, no complications. I have a daughter before him, typical daughter. So I wasn't expecting a Down syndrome diagnosis. But after going through the initial shock, and then you go through grief, as Dr. Scott was explaining, you go through a why me phase. Sometimes you don't understand what would have happened, or sometimes some moms blame themselves and wonder what they might have done during the pregnancy to have caused Down syndrome, whereas the fact really is that it's nothing environmental or anything that you could have done during the pregnancy to cause the baby to have that extra chromosome. But after getting over the initial shock, everything went well, and I went about starting the association and raising awareness from there.
All right, stay with us. We have more to talk about when it comes to Down syndrome. We're going to talk about some of the symptoms that you can find out, the causes. We're going to talk about when you can actually find out whether or not your child could get it. Stay with us. PBCJ Presents. We'll be right back. Welcome back to PBCJ Presents. We're talking about Down syndrome in this episode. Dr. Scott, when do you usually find out that your child has it?
Well, in most instances in our setting, it's usually after birth. However, the diagnosis can be made before, and it is recommended that if you are in a high-risk group, that is, childbearing moms over the age of 35, that you can in fact recommend that they have screening done, antenatal screening, to see if the baby may have the condition.
All right, so after my baby is born, though, what can I look out for as a mom if I didn't do the test before, after the baby is born?
Right, so the baby has certain distinctive facial features. For example, the upslanting of the eyes, a flat face, a flat nose bridge. Their tongue tends to protrude, and that's because the upper jaw is small. They're very floppy, so they're not as firm as other babies who don't have Down syndrome. They may have, if you look at your palm, you will notice you have an M-shaped crease, right? They tend to have just one single crease across the palm. Their fingers, the fifth finger curves in. The space between the big toe and the second toe, there's a big space there called a sandal gap. So those are some of the common features that would raise the suspicion of Down syndrome. But of course, it has to be confirmed by doing what we call karyotyping, where under the electron microscope, you're able to look at the chromosomes and see if there is an extra chromosome 21.
Where do we go to get that done in Jamaica?
We can have it done at Carigen, which is on the university campus. The cost is almost prohibitive, so most of the times we depend on the clinical diagnosis. I did mention about antenatal screening. What is available is what we call the amniocentesis, where in the second trimester of pregnancy, they take some fluid from around the baby, examine the fluid to see if the extra chromosome is there. Or earlier, you can actually take a tiny bit of placenta, the chorion, and examine that to see if the extra chromosome is there.
Asha, what about Barbados? Do they have those facilities there?
No, not to my knowledge as yet. When I had my son, it was suggested that we do the blood test, but of course it was very expensive, and it would also necessitate the sample being sent overseas. I'm not sure, from my knowledge, I don't think we do it here as yet either, and as well we also depend on the clinical diagnosis here without the official blood test.
Let's talk more about the symptoms. You were mentioning that issues with the heart can also play a part in the symptom of children who have Down syndrome. What would present? What can a parent look out for?
With the heart issue, the baby may be blue in color. They may be blowing faster than a newborn baby. And when the doctor examines, they may hear a heart murmur, a cardiac murmur or heart murmur. So that would kind of clue you in. But quite often there's no sign. And so it's recommended that we do a scan, which is called an echo, which is really an ultrasound scan, which should be done as soon after birth as possible. That's the best way to pick up a heart defect. And it's important that it be picked up early, because it has to be fixed in most cases within the first 6 months for it to be effective.
Both of you spoke about the cost of these tests. Are they covered by insurance, to your knowledge?
Well, because of our system in Jamaica, if you should turn up at the public hospital, there is no cost for any treatment. So that if the baby is screened and requires heart surgery, for example, they are put on the clinic. Yes, we do have a waiting list that's a bit backed up at the moment, what with COVID and all. But in fact, if you present to the public hospital, it's not. And there's no cost.
The screening for Down syndrome can also be done at our public hospitals, or you'd have
not
to go
in the
to
public hospital. It's done at University Hospital, Carigen.
Do they take the health insurance for that, or you have to pay cash?
I do believe that the health insurance should, but I'm not sure.
You're not sure? If you're not sure, you're not sure. Asha, what about you in Barbados? Can you use your health card to cover some of the costs, the initial costs?
I'm not sure I can speak to using the health insurance because we do have an issue here in terms of insurance and of course insuring babies with Down syndrome. But in terms of getting the test done here, we still don't have the test available here to test for Down syndrome.
Interesting. Explain to me what kind of issues, because we really want to delve into this. There are parents who are watching, you know, there are expected moms and dads who want to prepare. So what kind of issues were you faced with, or your members of your support group? And how did you get over those?
Okay, after baby is born, the 50% of babies with Down syndrome, as mentioned, do have some form of heart defect. So the first hurdle tends to be getting over and getting the surgery for these kids. Unfortunately, it is not always available, and it also sometimes ties into whether or not mom or dad can afford the surgery. And there is a waiting list as well here in Barbados. And in terms of accessing the surgery, we tend to face a bit of discrimination here in terms of the fact that the baby does have Down syndrome. And sometimes that alone can be an issue in terms of timeliness of having the surgery, and whether or not baby has the whole fix early or later. So the heart is definitely a very important issue here in Barbados. We're moving towards, or would like to see that surgery more readily available to our members and our babies that are born with Down syndrome and also have the heart defect at the same time. So once we get past the heart, and of course that changes everything in terms of the lifespan, and it helps, of course, combat the belief that babies or children with Down syndrome don't live very long. It's not necessary that they can't live very long, but the heart is a very important part of that. So once we have the heart fixed, then we can move on to the quality of life and the type of life that the child with Down syndrome will have here in Barbados as well.
All right, we're going to go for a quick break, but when we get back, we're going to be talking about the Disabilities Act and what stands out for both of these ladies that are on with us today. Stay with us. PBCJ Presents. We'll be right back. Welcome back to PBCJ Presents. We're talking about Down syndrome. First, we're going to start with Dr. Scott. Let's talk about the recently passed Disabilities Act in Jamaica. What stands out for you most with the new act?
I was elated to know that the act was finally come to pass. And it certainly will validate our efforts in getting Jamaicans to pay attention to what's happening to people in this community. We're used to basically seeing persons with physical disabilities, and we've been reaching out to them. But persons with intellectual disabilities and learning disabilities is a challenge because we don't see the props that they need. Most of what a child with an intellectual disability will need would be speech therapy, occupational therapy, early stimulation, and so on. And now it will make it easier for us, I hope, to access. Even although it is not as available as we would like, it's important that it is now compulsory that these children must be exposed to these.
That's true, that's true. Asha, do you have anything like that in Barbados?
No, we don't, but I've been reliably informed that we are on the horizon of having such an act here. It's been in the works for quite a while, as it's been in Jamaica. And let me congratulate Dr. Scott on Jamaica's achievement of passing this Disabilities Act, because it really is necessary to ensure the rights of people with disabilities across the Caribbean and in the world. In Barbados, we haven't passed our act as yet. We are hoping and we are praying that it will be passed soon. We have a new Minister of People's Empowerment and Elder Affairs here. And we're seeing some movement. We're seeing some movement in the area of disability. The Down Syndrome Association actually just received a grant from that ministry in terms so we can help support our members, and we're very appreciative of that. So we are moving in the right direction, but we are cognizant, of course, that the important step, the next step we have to make here is to pass our Disabilities Act to protect the rights of individuals with disabilities.
What are some of the things you would like to see in this new act when it comes into fruition, Asha?
We would love this act to be one which really, to use the term grassroots, gets down to the real needs of this community. We would like access to speech therapy. We would like it to be mandatory that inclusion happens. So we don't want it to be viewed as doing a favor. We're not doing a favor. We want the act to be such that these things are enshrined in law. So the child with special needs has the right to attend its community school. The child with special needs or the adult with special needs has the right to be included within the workplace. So we really want the act to make a substantial and effective change and difference in the lives of individuals with disabilities.
All right. Dr. Scott, I understand that the U.S. has passed a bill having to do with more support for persons living with Down syndrome. Is that something that the Caribbean can look at? Share with us more about your opinion on the bill.
It's definitely something that is a flagship, as it were, for this. And in the UK, in November, the first round of talks took place about making it compulsory for persons living with Down syndrome to get lifelong care from the state.
Wow.
So looking forward to that being, passed. But the first round has gone. And so we in Jamaica are looking on, and I'm sure the rest of the world, to see how kids who become adults with Down syndrome will be able to access lifelong care.
Let's talk about quality of life. What would you like to see in terms of, government and social support? What do they need?
Well, if you're going to be effective, you need to start the interventions early. And the two key interventions are educational and health. If you fix the heart, you fix the other issues, the hearing and so on, then you need to have a ready situation where they can go on to have effective learning environments, so that getting them into school early, getting them to therapy, as I mentioned, occupational and speech, become everyday and not a challenge for parents to access that.
How long can a person who lives with Down syndrome live?
Whereas so far we have not been able to cure Down syndrome, it has been well documented that interventions, educational and health interventions, have worked. And now the expected lifespan for someone living with Down syndrome is around 60 years, which is up from teens in the 60s to 30s in the 80s and so on. So we expect people with Down syndrome, with the correct timely intervention, they can in fact live up to 60 years.
Wow. Asha, speaking about intervention and quality of life, how is your son doing? How old is he now?
He's doing really well. He's 11 years old now. He just started secondary school. He's at the Derek Smith Vocational Center, and he's doing really well. He's reading. He loves interacting. He's very social. He loves sports. His dad is into football, so he loves football. He loves Messi and all the teams. So he's doing really well. He really is a joy. Of course, he's reaching that puberty age where he's getting a bit defiant and the typical behaviors of a preteen, so to speak, but he is really doing well, and I'm very grateful for that.
Is his sister helping him? I understand he has a sibling.
Oh, yes, big sister does help, and he also has a little brother, a 6-year-old. So they all help out and they play their role in terms of forming who he is as an individual, and he gets to be big brother. And he's also a little brother to my older daughter. So he's doing well and is a very valued part of our family.
All right, this year's theme, inclusion means. Tell us what the impact was like in Barbados.
Well, this year was fantastic. I would say this was one of our biggest, if not our biggest year. And I suspect coming out of COVID and loss of life and being locked down, and people were really looking forward for opportunity to celebrate something real, celebrate something meaningful, and just probably celebrate all together. So we had our Rock Your Socks campaign, and we had massive support across the private sector, across schools, individuals, businesses. Inclusion means that we try to push that theme as well and advocate for people to just take a while to think about what inclusion means to them. How can they go about being more inclusive and including an individual, probably not only with Down syndrome, but with a special need or disability in general. So I would say we had a very successful World Down Syndrome Day, and the response has been great. The response from the Ministry of People Empowerment and Elder Affairs, which is responsible for disability, we were over the moon that we got this donation from them, signaling the intent, or at least the recognition from government to take the needs and the rights of individuals with disabilities in Barbados more seriously going forward, and to provide that much needed support that we've been lacking over the years.
Congratulations to you and your members. Dr. Scott, tell us about your activities. What did you do on World Down Syndrome Day?
On World Down Syndrome Day, we were actually at the Norman Manley International Airport, interacting with guests of the airport as well as staff. And we were able to put on display some of the talents, should I say, of our members. We have one young lady who paints very well, so her paintings were on display. We have a young man who bakes very well, so we display the talents, the possibilities of persons living with Down syndrome. And we're able to interact, bring awareness, and in a way including them in some sort of mainstream activity on the day.
You speak about some of the talents that these young people have. Let's talk about they being accepted in the workplace. Do you think we're going to get there one day?
We have a way to go, but there's a start. A few of our members do have jobs in restaurants, and also one is a driver. We have Special Olympians and so on. So little by little, we are gaining some traction, but we still have a way to go.
What about governmental support?
It's there, but again, we still have a ways to go. But over the years, we've been able to bring the awareness. We used to have on World Down Syndrome Day a concert called Lift Up Downs concert. We didn't have it this year, where we have artists come in and give off their time, as well as our members performing. That brought awareness, and we're also able to fundraise for our programs.
All right, quickly tell me some of the services offered by your foundation and how parents and persons who want to get involved can contact you.
Right. Well, we are located at Stanton Terrace, and if you want to become involved, we do have a website, which is www.downsyndromejamaica.org, and we are on Facebook, and you can follow us on Instagram, which brings me to the point that we have just launched a Helping Hands campaign to raise some funds, and if you go to our social media, you'll be able to see the link. Our programs include counseling. Psychosocial counseling is extremely important in the initial stages, and also we have what we call mentor parenting, where a parent who has gone through the situation, we match them with a family who can help them to hold their hands and tell them about everyday stuff, not the scientific book knowledge. We also have parent group meetings where we tease out a topic that the parents would want to be empowered by, and we get a guest speaker, to come in on that day.
Asha, tell me about your foundation, some of the services that you provide, and how people can get in contact.
Okay, firstly, you can get in contact. We are also on social media, so you can find us on Instagram at Barbados Down Syndrome 246. We're also on Facebook at Barbados Down Syndrome Association, and telephone number 843-9948. Over the years, we've also provided that much needed counseling and support, something similar to what Dr. Scott was speaking about in terms of having parents or having a parent mentor a new parent and help show them the ropes. I've done quite a lot of that over the years as well. And then recently we started a Get Active with Down Syndrome program, whereby we had our members coming out and exercising and getting involved in sporting activities. Akeem Rudder from Inclusive Sports Academy directed that program for us. So that's still ongoing. So we're hoping now to expand to our wider lead program, whereby we'll have members involved in life skills, education, athletics, and developmental skills. So that is our umbrella program. And of course, we're still running our Get Active program. And of course, we hope to widen our umbrella over the near future.
All right, thank you so much. It's been very interesting and informative, ladies. Our topic this week has been Down syndrome. Thanks so much for speaking with us. I'm sure that parents across the region will find this very informative, something that they can use in their day-to-day lives and to help them with their parenting. You've been watching PBCJ Presents. I'm Simone Absalom. Pleasant viewing.